Our next speaker comes from Woodbridge, Virginia, Rosalind Frazier. VA in the building. Yes.
Thank you. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the summer of 1999, and my son Damani was a kindergartner. Out of the blue, I started having random runs to the emergency room for bones slipping out of joints and benign pain that would suddenly turn into a mad dash to the emergency room. Then one day, a memorable symptom occurred. I had the strange sensation of pins and needles sticking me in my hands and feet. You know, we refer to it as tingling. As children, we would say, ooh, my hands fell asleep, or my feet fell asleep, and we'll get up and shift position and begin to shake it off. Well, this time, neither the small shakes or the rigorous shakes will cause it to subside. Surprisingly, it lasted one entire week. I noticed that it was more pronounced in the midnight and early morning hours. I literally stayed awake for one full week. Then I decided I need to see the doctor. After a few days, he said to me, "You have lupus, systemic lupus." Well, I'd never heard of lupus before. So for me, it sounded like a death sentence. In hysteria, I called my pastor and I yelled into the phone, "He said I have lupus!" About a year and a half later, life went back relatively to normal. I was taking my prednisone, and I continued life as a single mom, a social worker, and a trained modern dancer. About 2001, I choreographed Amen, a Caribbean-style liturgical dance sung by Grace Thrillers. There were 7 of us wearing different colored bolero-style tops with broad ruffled collars, elastic at the waist, bell sleeves with matching head wraps, and that long white ruffled skirt that Judith Jamison wore in Alvin Ailey's famously choreographed Cry. I was very proud of my choreography. I used to work those girls. Get it! Extend, release, contract, plie, relevate. Oh, Debbie Allen was all in my head. I was a fame kind of a girl. I could do Amen. Amen lasted 4 minutes and 27 seconds. I could do that dance full out with energy left over. One night after ministering Amen, I went into the back and I began to pant uncontrollably. And in jest, one of the young dancers said to me, "Wow, Miss Rosalind, you're getting old." Well, I was 36 years old with this relatively new diagnosis. After that, the episodes of shortness of breath and fatigue began to rapidly increase. I could no longer walk at that fast pace, being from New York. One day I was walking up the stairs to the second floor garage, and I almost passed out. My coworker was frantic. One day I was carrying the grocery bags up to the second floor apartment, and I laid on the floor, and my 8-year-old Damani said, "Mommy, do you want me to call 911? I said, "No, I'll be fine." When I awoke 2 hours later, I knew I had to call the doctor. So I went to the doctor. After several tests, he said to me, "We can't let you return to work. We see an enlargement in your chest, and we have to figure it out." About 4 weeks later, the rheumatologist said to me, "You have pulmonary hypertension. It's rare, it's serious. First, we'll try you on calcium channel blockers. If that doesn't work, beta blockers, and heart-lung transplant." Whoa. My head was spinning. All I really heard was rare, serious, beta blockers, channel blockers. But what rang through to me was his nonchalant attitude when he shrugged his shoulders and said, "Heart-lung transplant." Then, after about 2 months, I met Dr. Nathan and the PH team at Inova Fairfax Hospital. Dr. Nathan delivered the third blow. He said, "Your condition is very serious. On a scale of 1 to 10 of needing a lung transplant, you're about a 9 if you don't get on an IV infusion pump immediately." Well, all I knew to say was, "How long will I have to be on this pump?" He said, "For the rest of your life." Well, I was 37 years old, and I was just given 2 major chronic diseases: systemic lupus and pulmonary hypertension. The lupus was active, so I was dealing with severe nerve pain in my legs. I was going to the emergency room every other week for severe migraines. My blood pressure was high and out of control. And then they said to me, "You're going to have to be on this pump 24/7, 365 for the rest of your life." And then they added, "And you have Sjogren's syndrome and Raynaud's phenomenon, both in the autoimmune family." Well, after meeting Dr. Nathan, I realized that every ounce of my being was under attack. My mind, my body, my emotions, my spirituality. I desperately needed to hear from God. I needed to decide if I was going to give up or if I was going to live beyond the diagnoses. You see, my 8-year-old son, he needed his mother. And I needed to know that I didn't faint during this adversity. I don't know if anybody can understand my dilemma. But there was a war not only raging on the outside of me, but it was raging on the inside of me. There were 2 opposing forces warring for my faith. See, I had to talk to my pastors again to understand, what does agreeing to the pump and submitting to the doctor's order mean regarding my faith? You see, this is a very real dilemma for Western Christian believers. We don't really have to use our faith like that. We live in a country where we have excellent health care. So I don't know, think to yourself, if you or somebody you know has ever had to wrestle with a diagnosis or disease. 9 times out of 10, the real inner struggle has to do with faith. Do I trust God completely, or do I do what the doctors ordered? My concern was, if I wasn't 100% healed supernaturally, would I or others consider me to have lacked faith? You see, I really wanted to be healed supernaturally. But my prideful heart, it was only about me having to stick my chest out and say, "I trusted God, and He rewarded me." The real truth is, I didn't even have the strength to believe and to trust for what I desired. So I spoke to my pastors and I prayed. And then it occurred to me that trusting God prayer and doing what the doctors ordered doesn't demonstrate a lack of faith, but living and exercising your faith. And then the words of the great St. Augustine rang through me. He said, faith is to believe what you cannot see. And the reward of that faith is to see what you believe. And then I understood that knowing God meant accepting that God wanted me healed and in good health by whatever means he provided that did not violate his will or his law. And in the words of Bishop Noel Jones, he said, it's critical for me to understand that faith doesn't negate reason. Faith overrides reason. So what did I do to conquer and defeat those giants? I decided to pray and to do what the doctors ordered. Now understand, this revelation didn't lessen the fire. It merely gave me the courage, the wisdom, and the determination to fight through the fire. I was still embroiled in a vicious battle for my life. There were numerous hospitalizations. I was carrying around oxygen tanks. I was connected to heart monitors. There were regular catheterizations and MRIs. And with that, I was still relegated to that pump. And I was praying, and I was reading, and I was seeing my diagnoses, I was seeing my healing by faith. And I got to tell you, I was still connected to that pump. I was still a single parent. I was still choreographing and directing dance ministries. And as I was a graduate student full time. So where am I today? I got to tell you that I can't tell you that all the diseases are gone, but the lupus is no longer active. I'm no longer dealing with leg pain. I'm no longer going to the emergency room for migraines. My blood pressure, I do not have high blood pressure. And I can let you know that I graduated on time in 2009 with my Master's of Social Work degree. And let me tell you, August of this year made 4 years I live without the pump. The doctors are astounded. My family and friends and co-workers are astounded. And I stand before you today and say, I remember when. What did I learn? I learned faith without works is dead. I learned that faith doesn't negate reason. Faith overrides reason. So I challenge you today, whatever your trials, whatever your mountains, face it, confront it, dismantle it, get wise counsel, and remember the words of St. Augustine. Faith is to believe what you cannot see, and the reward of that faith is to see what you believe. And in the words of Bishop Noel Jones, faith doesn't negate reason. Faith overrides reason. So I challenge you today to live beyond the diagnoses. Let me hear you say it. Live beyond the diagnoses.
Fighter Queen, you are. Fighter Queen, you are. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you for sharing.